Welcome back to the NFL Experience in the Los Angeles Convention Center, site of Super Bowl 56. Joining us now, a guy who spent 16 years as head coach of the New Orleans Saints. The speculation is already rampant as to when he will be coaching again, but for now we have him here. He's part of the media, unofficially and soon officially. Sean Payton, welcome back.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's good to be back and kind of back into maybe a normal Super Bowl media row, if you will.
You've got this fascination with the media, and I assume that you will be able to pick and choose your offers, but I almost feel like your curiosity is taken over. Like, I've done football from this other angle my whole life. I kind of like the idea of being able to look at it through a different lens.
Yeah, look, I feel that way. I'm excited. There's a little bit of that unknown. My first time going through this, and 33 years now I've coached, and 16 at the same team here in the NFL as a head coach. I had that moment 2 days ago where I was visiting with a network, and the Uber driver dropped me off, and I just got out, and I had like this new sport coat I had bought, and I walked up to the gate, and all of that was like completely foreign to me. And then met somebody that took me to the room and had a great visit with some really neat folks. But the point is, it was clearly out of what would be my comfort zone, and that would be looking at Senior Bowl tape right now, getting ready for the Combine. And it's an entirely different change, and something that you look at as a challenge because you want to be successful at it.
Do you want to do games? Do you want to do studio? What's your preference?
I asked that question twice now, and with the idea that I really want them to say, hey, this is where we want to put you, and then go do that.
What about weekday stuff? Because there's a whole week between games where there's plenty of discussion, and you're great at breaking down what happened, talking about what went right, talking about what went wrong. And I know you don't want to work as hard as you did coaching, and I know how hard you worked, and the human body isn't meant to do that. But you're going to realize if you're just working on Sundays, and you're going to put the work in during the week, but there's Monday through Friday, there's hours there where you could be generating content as well. I feel like once you dip your toe into it, you're going to realize I like this, and you're going to be looking for more avenues.
Yeah, it sounds like an offer or an opportunity.
We can have the conversation. I said to Ron Rivera earlier, and you'll hear Ron Rivera if you're watching the show. This is See, I'm a Professional. Ron Rivera is coming up, but you'll hear me tell Ron Rivera at the end of the interview, Chris Sims wasn't able to be here today. He's been Wally pipped, but I don't know. Maybe we can leverage Ron Rivera against Sean Payton.
We absolutely can. That's what a capitalistic economy does.
That's right.
I think look, it's easy to say. Mr. Benson, the late Mr. Benson, would always tell me, hey, the whole retirement thing everyone sells you on TV is overrated. You want to get up in the morning with a purpose, something to do, and clearly I'll feel that way. Like already there's some things that happen back at home, and they happen, and look, everything moves, and it moves on either with or without you, and right away there's that emptiness, like I didn't see the Senior Bowl film. I don't have the calendar that we normally have this time of the year, and that calendar tells us here's February, here's March owners meetings, here's April draft, here's May mini camp OTAs, here's June mini camp, here's start of training camp. It takes us all the way to the start of the season, and we stop there only because we want to see who we're playing, when we're playing. And you're so driven by that these 2 weeks have been like, all right, I got to return a car. It's Dennis's car now, and I asked Mickey, I said, hey, I'm going to get this car back to you, and he's like, you get whenever you take it, as long as you need it. And then I'm like, all right, what does that mean? How long is that? Is that like in weeks? I've got to get a health insurance plan now, that you just normal things that you haven't even given any thought to maybe for the better part of a third of your life. Change address, all the things that you do when you have to move, and it's such a real answer. There's no, that's exactly. You get up in the morning, and my mind's racing, like relative to the address changes, getting back to people, helping some of the coaches that are still looking for work in our league, that have opportunities, and then doing these other things.
But you seem invigorated by it. That's what's so encouraging.
Yeah.
You're embracing it with the same zeal that you've embraced everything you've ever done.
Yeah. I believe that there's a tremendous power in the fear of failure, and I don't say that in a negative way, but man, you don't ever want to not succeed. And so I'm kind of, I think, a glass half full guy, or someone that looks at things, with a positive lens, but I also recognize, that there's an easy eye to what you see people do in media, and you take it for granted, and then when you really get down to it, you're like, man, it's difficult and it's challenging, and you want to be really good at it.
The Saints moving forward with Dennis Allen as the head coach, and I know that one of the things you said during your farewell press conference, you want to be sure that you left the team in a better spot than when you found it. And the organization, the city, everything was in a very bad spot. I mean, you took it from the lowest of the lows to the highest of the highs. How do you feel about the team moving forward with Coach Allen taking over?
I think real good, and I know that Dennis and Mickey, our GM, feel the same way. There'll be some cap issues they'll deal with. Mickey, Kai, those guys have done a great job.
Mickey always figures it out. Yeah. Every year there's cap issues, and Mickey figures it out.
Well, and look, when people discuss that, ultimately we think we can win. This idea, I'm going to say it because it drives me crazy, this idea of tanking games to get the best player in our league is mythical. Like, in other words, you can't show me an example where that's happened, where it's because you can't turn off and turn on winning.
Except at halftime of Week 17 in 2014.
No, it happened.
When you were playing, yeah.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. The idea that it benefits you as a club is crazy.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, you sell your locker room soul, you sell. And so we've seen it. We played Tampa Bay, and it happened. We all watched the Eagles a year ago with Peterson coaching and a substitution. But that's flawed thinking, and I have no problem saying that. It's not the NBA. And all you have to do is say, all right, let's look at the last 25 Super Bowl winners. And someone might say, well, they've had a quarterback. Yeah, but they've learned to win. And you don't just turn that button on and say, we drafted our quarterback guys, now we're going to win. No, because you're trying to win at everything the moment you start building a program. And so I think I'm critical of that. That's flawed front office theory.
Right. Well, but let's go back to 2014, Week 17. You're playing the Buccaneers. They are one loss away from nailing down the first overall pick so they could secure Jameis Winston. They're up by 11. And the second half starts, and what happens? All of a
sudden, well, look, when someone ges hurt, the coaches upstairs will say, Coach, the corner's out, the right corner's coming in. And I just kept hearing over the headset, hey, they took out Levante David. They took out the coach. All their backups are in. I'm like, get out, what are you talking about? And all that took place in the second half of the game, and you know what? We gladly won it then.
And you're not thinking...
No, I knew exactly.
2014 wasn't a playoff year for the Saints, so you're not thinking, well, you know what? You still want to win.
We want to win them all.
You still want to win, yeah.
The day that a guy walks in to tell me that, hey, we'd be a little bit better off if we didn't win, that, again, it's flawed thinking, and we want to play those teams.
And that's a great point. You can't turn that on and off. Winning is either part of your culture or it's not.
It's craziness. And so, look, they lost that game. They got Jameis. And, that was Lovey. And Lovey was asked to do that, right? And a year later, they're firing Lovey. All right. Peterson was asked to do that when they put in Nate Sudfeld. Everyone kept saying, why are they putting in Nate at halftime? We're all watching the game, and their starter comes out of the game. And at that moment, like, they couldn't move the football. And they fired Peterson a year later. I don't know the NBA game well enough to know. It certainly seems like the one player there is it's an important deal, and they have a lottery system to prevent that. But I can't think of an example one time that you could point to in our league. If you just took the last 20 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, for instance, and say, well, that's how they were acquired, and then they went on to be successful. That's someone who's got the wrong person's ear in a building that the owner shouldn't be listening to. He ought to just turn the music up real loud when someone comes to tell him that's what we want to do. And that's just the truth.
This is why you're going to be great in media, because you're going to tell the truth, you're going to be honest, you're going to be open, you're going to be candid, and there's a lot of stuff that gets sugar-coated, and there's a lot of stuff that you've seen it from the inside out, so you can give folks a window, and you know how to explain it in a way that's accessible and understandable. It's not going to be filled with jargon. You're going to be great.
We're trying to win them all. Like, we're trying to win them all, and even when you're out of the playoff hunt, we're still learning to win them all and learning to win and competing to win. And it's important to see Jalen Hurts one more time in a regular season game. It's important to see, these other players, and it's important to win that game. And I'm kind of waiting for that other thing to ever happen. That's the unicorn.
So one thing that helps you win is Zebra Technologies. Tell us what you have going on with them.
It's simple. Look, the better part of 8 years now, they track every player that's played in a game, regular season, preseason, postseason. They track the player movement. We get data from that. We help. It's just a little chip. This thing is the size of a little, call it Coke top. And this fits in the shoulder pad. And basically, we're able to see how fast a player is moving. For the production crews, they have the next-gen stats. My son loves that. The fastest running back, Derrick Henry, hit 22 miles an hour. That comes from this. Player safety relative to training camp, how far these guys are traveling in a practice. Someday we're going to have this, and we already have it in the ball, but someday we're going to, that punt that goes out of bounds, and we mindlessly walk until we stop. And act like we know where the ball went out.
Yeah,
that's nuts. We have a way to tell you exactly where it went out, and we're going to do that sooner than later.
Why is it taking so long? Why are we still doing two sticks with 10 yards of chain?
I'm going to say this, though, in defense of the 2 sticks and the 10 yards of chain, periodically, and it's changed, we can't get measurements as much, but don't you think there's some pretty cool drama when they place that chain?
And when Gene Steratore does this?
Yeah. So I don't think that's going away anytime soon. But the randomness of a ball flying out of bounds, and the current method of which we measure where it went out at and the plane it went out at is crazy. And then also, look, when it crosses the goal line, I think it's helpful if the chip's in the ball and the minute it hits the plane of the goal line, that we're going to have a light, and that's going to that shot clock light, if you will, is going to allow us to look closer as to where the knee is. So there's some basic things that are going to evolve because of this. But they're a great league they're a great league sponsor, and they're good for the teams. They help us. They really help us be more efficient with work. If you want to, we can actually look up data and tell us, how often is Cooper Kupp inside versus outside, and then if he's ever outside of this person, it's 100% pass or run, that kind of stuff.
So when you go to the media, you will have occasions like this where you're interviewing someone and you will have to ask a tough but fair question. So here's a tough but fair question.
Absolutely.
Have you called or will you call Mike McCarthy and say, don't worry about me, don't think about me, don't look over your shoulder, just go do your thing? Have you had that conversation?
I haven't, and you know what? That's a good idea because I felt like it took place for a while with Jason Garrett, a good friend of mine who I coached at the Giants, still a close friend to this day, and I consider Mike someone who's a close friend. And Mike's done it long enough. We both entered the league as head coaches the same year in 2006.
You wanted the Packers job.
He got the
original.
Yeah, and so we're of the same age and we're of the same background. And look, our paths have been different, but I think I'm his big fan, and I think he's one of those guys who's a fantastic coach. I had this whole conversation with Saints ownership the week prior to the wild card round, and Mrs. Benson said, take a week, go on vacation to Mexico, and before you come back with that answer, because I knew then I wanted to step away, and sure enough, that first round game, Dallas loses, and I'm like, it would have been so much easier that I had the Tuesday before that. You know what I mean?
But it's good you didn't do it the Tuesday after.
The Tuesday after was like
that's when all hell broke loose.
Yeah, that's like I can't. No one can remember what happened on the Tuesday after. That was when like a UFO landed or something. A lot of stuff happened.
Well, it's great to have a chance to see you in person. It's great to talk to you, and it's going to be very interesting to see how things go in your media career. You know, we're both old enough to remember E.F. Hutton. Remember the E.F. Hutton commercials?
Absolutely.
When E.F. Hutton
he
talks, people listen. When Sean Payton talks, people need to listen. And I can listen all day. I mean, you did a 90-minute press conference, and at no point did I think, my God, would he just wrap it up? So that tells me you're going to be great in the media.
No,
You've got great things to say, and I can't wait to see what you have to say and hear what you have to say. That's it for now. For now, we'll be back with plenty more PFT Live here from the Super Bowl right after this.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.